From the grind to the glory, one man's journey proves that heart, hustle, and determination change the game. This is Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., where adversity is met head-on and champions are made. Here's George.
Welcome to Catch as Catch Can. I'm George Tinsley Sr., former professional athlete, entrepreneur, author, and your host. This is a space where we sit down with leaders who face real challenges, learned real lessons, and kept moving forward.
Turning obstacles into opportunity.
Hello. Today we have an NBA player, former player, Mr. Dwight Davis, an entrepreneur, and of course, former player, and inspiring example of resilience. Raised in segregated post-World War II Houston, he used his basketball as a path to success, earning a scholarship to the University of Houston, graduating in kinesiology and being drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers 54 years ago today. Today he and his wife have a successfully owned and operated an in-home healthcare franchise for 11 years, combining service, leadership, and perseverance to make a meaningful impact in their community. Dwight, welcome to our podcast.
Good morning, George, and thank you. So good to be here with you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man, my good friend. Have a chance to sit and chat with you and hear a little bit about what you're doing. So why don't we start, Dwight, back in Houston, back in the area you're growing up, and tell us a little bit about a little bit about your early days.
Well, George, in reading Catch as Catch Can, there were a number of parallels in our lives. You being a Southern boy yourself, some of the things you experienced, some of the challenges. So it was reminiscing for me when I read Catch as Catch Can. Well, for me, growing up in Houston, as you know, it was a segregated city. And Texas is a little different than other Southern states in that I think it's a little more dyed into the wool. Some of the hatred, it's kind of dyed in the wool. And so growing up, it was clear to me that once I turned 5 years old, that I knew I was a little black boy, and little black boys were different and treated differently than little white boys. I was very fortunate to have just great parents who were married for 65 years, and they were strong in the church, but they were also great in the community. But for me, growing up in Studewood, Houston, North Houston, within a stone's throw, there was a white neighborhood. And on the way to school and walking to school, the kids on the school bus, the white kids on the school bus, would throw rocks at me and so forth. So I knew where I was in the pecking order. But I also knew because of how my mother and father, especially my father, he always spoke aspirationally. He always told us that we could do so much more, and to be open for those opportunities.
Dwight, back in those days, and of course we just finished the celebration of Juneteenth, and Texas being the last state to really recognize the freedom of slavery. And what you've just mentioned, how did your parents and the adults in your neighborhood, how did they help you and others prepare yourself to deal with some of the diversity issues that you were running into in those days?
That's a great question, George. Well, my mother and father, they were great partners, but they both went about it a little differently in how they instructed the kids.
Yeah.
My father, God bless his soul, he worked 2 and 3 jobs for my entire life until I was a professional athlete. And once I became a professional athlete, I negotiated with him to drop one of the jobs. I had to negotiate it because he's always said, I take care of my family. Now, my mother, when we were growing up, because there were 5 kids in the house, and we're talking about a house, just call it a 2-bedroom house, that would be generous. It was more like 1.5 bedrooms for 5 kids. And my mother, she had grown up as the only child. She had been abused by her stepmother. So the only way she understood the discipline was to use that belt. But she was wise in that, because during my youth, and I'm sure during your youth, some little black boys came up missing. I know you talk about Emmett Till in your book. That was one that made the papers. It was not uncommon in any southern town of any size for a little black boy to go missing now and again. And I remember to this day, George, my mother, when she would be whipping me when I did not do the things that I was supposed to be doing, she said, "I'll kill you before I let them kill you."
Right.
Can you imagine how that made a mother feel, to have to say those kind of things to her children as she's disciplining?
Right. Yeah, there was quite a bit of fear that the mothers in particular had during those days with the Emmett Till story and some of the others, as you said, the stories that were not reported but you heard about. So mothers in particular, I think, reacted a little bit differently. And fathers, of course, fathers were still, as you mentioned, trying to instill that concern and be careful as well. So, but how did your faith, your church, did the church have any influence?
Absolutely. Again, my father was, even though he worked all those jobs, he found time to take us all to church. He was one of the church leaders. He was a deacon. And sometimes you think of Southern Baptists and you talk about church leaders, some people can get the impression that some of the church leaders, pastors and deacons and deaconess, they were oppressive. I was fortunate that my father wasn't that kind of man. As I said, he was aspirational. To be sure, he was Martin Luther King-esque. He believed that things would be better if I did my part, if he did his part. But the church was a place where we met. The church was a place where we encouraged each other to go and vote. The church was the place where we even got our shots, our preschool shots. You may have even experienced some of that in the basement of our church when they started giving polio shots. We got them in the basement of our church.
Dwight, you're bringing back a lot of those memories. I remember those days myself. As you were growing up and you began to recognize that you had some athletic ability, where were you in your transition of school at that time? Was it elementary school, middle school?
Well, George, unlike you, I didn't have a basketball IQ at an early age. My first claim to any kind of notoriety was academic wise. I was a good student, and I'm sure in my elementary school graduation class, I was the 4th quote unquote smartest kid, that kind of thing. So when I went to junior high school, I knew I wanted to play some sports. I joined the team at Booker Washington, and I wasn't good. But the coach let me on the team because I was skinny with a big head, and he figured I would grow.
Right.
But something happened during that time. My family faced some really hard challenges, financial challenges, because my father was trying to save up enough money to move us out of North Houston, which is one of those old Black communities where there was a lot of crime, and to a new built community on the south side of town. And so I told you about my dad working that third job. He worked at Macy's at night. He worked for the Southern Pacific Railroad in the day, and then he took on a newspaper route. And I wanted to be a little man. I wanted to help my dad. Long story short, we did come up with the money for the down payment, and we were able to move to the south side of town. But I was very involved at an early age, trying to help my parents as much as I could. When we moved to the other side of town, I found this young man who was on the team at Addicks Middle School. He thought I was a cool kid. He was on the basketball team. He was my only friend in the area. So he said, "Hey, come on, man, why don't you join the basketball team?" As I said, I wasn't good. I think it was the 9th grade before I started having any kind of real success in basketball.
I think you're a step ahead of me. Is that it was basically about the same thing until I was a sophomore in high school. But the basketball opened up. You got the academics, you're doing well in academics. Basketball opened up another arena. It started to expose you to another world. Tell us about that, how that transition came along.
Well, it was exciting for me, George, because you can be the smartest kid in school and people say, "Okay, there go the smart kid," but there's no fanfare. Being on the basketball team in Worthing High School and us having a good team brings the appreciation from the teachers, from the principal, the counselors, and of course from girls, right? And what young man doesn't want some attention from girls, especially poor guys like you and I who didn't have the right wardrobe or the right rap. Basketball spoke volumes for us, and it was an introduction to a positive critique. So that's how it excited me. I was part of the group, even though, like as I read in Catch and Catch Can, I avoided going to too many parties because I didn't have the clothes for it. But I didn't have to worry about that because I was still, a basketball player on the team with some contribution, and it brought friends into my life. But basketball did something else too. In high school, as you remember, we would still going to these tournaments around town and around the state, which also got you a chance to see different things, see different people, interact with kids from other school districts. So it was so exciting.
Dwight, did you? And I saw you on TV not too long ago at Wheeler Baptist Church. Was Wheeler in your area?
Wheeler was not in my immediate area. Wheeler was right near the University of Houston. Okay. So when I was in Houston for my jersey retirement, I had many of my classmates had become members at Wheeler because Wheeler is a one powerhouse church in Houston.
Yes. Okay. I wanted to get that in because that's such a big focus for my family and watching Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church every Sunday. So Dwight, as you're in high school and your team was pretty good, did pretty good. Tell us about some of your success as I imagine you started growing then because you're 6'8" when you graduated?
Actually, I was 6'6" when I graduated from high school, 6'6.5".
Okay.
And if you're talking about success in high school, it was, again, fueled by my father's thoughts about I could be whatever I wanted to be. And I can remember as a junior in high school, there was this guy named Louis Davis who played for Carver High School. He was the best player in all of Houston. Okay. And so I said, and I'm getting a little better. So I worked hard all summer. And I said, I'm going to be the best player in Houston my next year, my junior year. And I was the best player in the city. But I learned something too. During the course of the summer, Louis had got arrested. He had gotten into some trouble and he was arrested. And again, I refer to Catch as Catch Can. Some of the stories that you learn by seeing the mistakes of others kept you on a certain path. And that was a cautionary tale for me when Louis Davis, who was an outstanding player, got arrested and never got a chance to finish his high school career or college career.
Wow. I'm glad that worked out for you, my friend. As you, in your senior year, you started getting offers from colleges around the country, I would imagine.
I did. I was very fortunate in that, because of me being a good student, I got offers from practically every college, every major college, coast to coast. unfortunate thing was I was a midterm graduate. I don't know if many of your viewers know what a midterm graduate is. You probably remember that.
Well, tell us about it, though.
Midterm graduates, well, now they graduate kids once a year, and that's usually May, June. Well, back in the day, they had a midterm graduation in January. Then they had a spring graduation in June. Well, if you were a basketball player and you graduated, you did not have the summer to go and visit all the schools you would want to visit. The recruiting process was condensed, so you're being recruited while you're studying, while you're playing basketball, and so it's short-circuited, so you don't get the full experience. And so, I knew I wanted to go into pharmacy, and I knew any university I went to had to have a school of pharmacy. So I checked the box on those, and I got a chance to visit 3 schools, and I chose a good choice for me because I didn't have the wardrobe to go anyplace else. My wardrobe.
You weren't getting any NIL money?
I was getting 0 NIL money, George.
Boy, we came along way too soon.
Yes, we did.
So you chose University of Houston when you're still at home. How many siblings did you have?
Well, yeah, I had 5 siblings, but I do want to go back to the recruiting for just a minute, if you don't mind.
Please.
I did not have NIL, but I had this special man named Rayford Davis. At the time I came out, Houston had brought in Elvin Hayes and Melvin Bell and Don Chaney, and they were cracking heads all across the country as a great team, as you know.
Great team.
And so schools in the South that had not recruited any blacks started trying to recruit blacks. And the University of Texas, being the school that it was, tried to recruit me. They were recruiting me. And I was thinking about it seriously. Darryl Royal came to my house along with the basketball coach, the athletic director, and about 3 other folks to try to recruit me. They wanted me badly. There was this girl in school in my physics class named Pam Bankson. They thought she was my girlfriend. They sent this black guy who had attended the University of Texas to talk to her. He was a judge, actually, to talk to her, and told her if she could do anything to get me to commit to Texas, they would give her a full scholarship, an apartment, and a car.
Wow.
They promised my dad 2 cars to build us a house. I think it would have been a $40,000 house at that time. You're talking 1968, a $40,000 house in Austin. Get him a job equivalent pay to what he had then. They offered all that, and my dad sat me down and talked to me and said, Dwight, you go where you want to go to school. I take care of my family.
Wow.
That's what my dad looked me in the eye. And this is the guy who was working
3 jobs.
3 jobs. 3 jobs for his family of 5 kids and a wife. So what a man. And I ultimately chose the University of Houston for a couple of reasons. I was excited about what was happening with the program, with what Elvin and Don were doing. But I was also concerned, I had those Emmett Till thoughts in my mind.
Right.
How would I react if someone said the wrong thing to me at the University of Texas? Because that program was not integrated. I would have been the first athlete there, scholarship athlete, to play sports there.
No football, no other sports, black athletes.
None. They had a guy in track, but he was not a scholarship athlete.
Okay.
But they had no other athletes at that time.
Okay. Well, they really put the full court press on you, right?
They put the full court press. It was NIL before the
right.
And again, I didn't think, I was concerned that I may not handle the situation right. It had been fenced up and kicked out of school.
Yeah. Well, I remember what year was this?
January 1968.
1968. Yeah. I remember at University of Kentucky, somewhat of the same situation was happening with Wes Unseld and Butch Beard. Wes came out in 60. I'm sorry, 64, and Butch came out in 65, and they were trying. University of Kentucky was really trying to recruit them, and some of these same kind of stories that you're mentioning they were happening. So that was a tough period, and it sounds like your dad really made a great decision there to stand behind what you wanted to do versus bending to some of these offers that were being presented. Were you the oldest of the five?
I was the middle child. I had an oldest brother, and then an older sister, myself, and then two younger brothers.
Yeah. Did they play sports?
My older brother, he was a dropout. So he didn't get a chance to do the experience. And he was my father's namesake and really disappointed. My father was really disappointed with him. My sister, she did go to Texas Southern. She was a wonderful singer. She sung in the choir. We had the Laws family. It was part of my church choir. I'm sure you're familiar with Ronnie Laws and Eloise Laws.
Yeah.
They were all in our church.
Okay.
Then myself, my younger brother Larry, and then my youngest brother Doyle, who worked with the Houston Police Department for a number of years before retiring.
Okay. Well, so let's go on to Houston. You go to Houston and tell us about your 4 years there.
Houston, very interesting because it was my first time going to an integrated school.
Okay.
My very first time. And so there were adjustments I had to make, and there were adjustments other people had to make. But I can tell you, I was given a lot of support, anything that I needed in terms of tutors or whatever. Guy Lewis was a caring coach, a sensitive coach. He was really concerned about the fact that he, as a white coach, had only recently coached black players. I felt he went a little too easy on us. He was afraid he might offend us or say the wrong thing. And I think that really hurt him in terms of him getting a championship. You know, he would not go full throttle on the black guy. But I was enjoying my experience there because, you know, we're traveling, going to Hawaii, to New York to play games. I was getting a few bucks here from boosters and stuff. They would get a few bucks here. I was learning, you know, what it was to live in an interracial society. And I was in college.
Yeah.
I was in college.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, I mean, I knew my father couldn't take on another job to put me through college. So I was so grateful that I was there.
Right. So you had the great Elvin Hayes and Don Chaney that were several years ahead of you, 2-3 years ahead of you, I guess.
Yeah, 3 years.
Okay. And you came out in 72. You, by chance, when you went to University of Hawaii, did you play against the John Pennybacker?
No, I played against the Bob Nash, Tommy Henderson. I know you know Tommy Henderson.
Yes.
Those are the guys I played against.
That was the Fab Five. That their famous five, I think, that during that time.
I think they were after me.
Oh, they were after you?
I think Pennybacker and those guys were after me.
Okay. I thought they all graduated at the same time. Henderson.
Well, you might be right. Did Pennybacker play with Tom Henderson?
Yes, he was the one. He jumped number 21, jumped center.
No, he wasn't on the team that I played against.
Okay.
He may have been a year earlier, a year later.
Okay.
But because Tommy was 1 to 2 years behind me.
Okay. All right. We'll check on that, but because that's my brother.
Really?
Yes. So, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's my brother played that. So, okay, you go through Houston and tell us about the approach for the NBA. What your NBA story? It's a really a great story. 54 years ago.
54 years ago, when you said that in the intro, I said, "Man, I didn't even know that." So, Thank you for that. I'm going to put that on my calendar going forward. So I know I was really excited. I was, George, the summer during the draft, I had a job working for Hillcroft Pharmacy. As I told you, I wanted to be a pharmacist. And I was in pre-pharmacy school. And so the University of Houston, they were able to connect me with a job at Hillcroft Pharmacy. this guy named George Moonham was one of the owners. He was also one of the supporters, boosters for the basketball team. And I had a Volkswagen delivery cart that I delivered prescriptions to folks on my summer job. And I was working my summer job that day, driving around with this Volkswagen with about 160,000 miles on it. One front seat, the passenger seat had been taken out so we could put the prescriptions in a box that I would go around delivering. And I'm listening to this black station, KCOH, and they announced that Dwight Davis had just been selected third by the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this is before cell phone, so I drove to the pharmacy and told them, hey, I need to go home and see if anybody's calling me. And by the time I got home, my mother told me she had gotten a call from Bill Fitch.
Wow.
Welcoming me to the team. So I wasn't in New York. I wasn't in the Turks.
Right. You know, that's waiting on those phone calls, you know, in the draft back in those days, a big difference from today. Going to New York and all the celebration. Right. So you get drafted by Cleveland. Tell us about a little bit of whatever you want to tell us about your contract and how the family reacted. And
the negotiations didn't go really well as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, drafted the same year. LaRue Martin was drafted number 1. Yeah. Bob McAdoo was drafted number 2. I'm 3. I'm not sure who was drafted number 4, but Paul Westphal was in that, and several other guys. My agent was a guy named Arthur Morris. I don't know if you ever ran into Arthur Morris. Mm-hmm. He represented Cassie Russell and John Johnson, Johnny Johnson, Mitchell Johnson's father, represented him. And the summer was going by. I'm working hard, trying to train. Nothing's happening. I'm a little impatient. So we're getting down to August. My attorney, Arthur, said, Dwight, I want you to meet me in Cleveland. We want to get this contract thing going. So they put me on a plane. I fly to Cleveland. Bill Fitch is there at the airport. We find a room in the airport with Bill Fitch, Arthur Morris, and myself. And Bill pulls out this contract, gives it to Arthur. Arthur puts it in front of me, and it's for $500,000, $100,000 a year for 5 years. And my feathers fell because $750 was the number I was looking at for 5 years. Mm-hmm. I know LaRue Martin had signed for right around $900,000. Bob McAdoo, is my understanding, had signed for about $850. And for it to drop to $500,000, I really, it was a knee-jerk reaction for me to just hold it together. Mm-hmm. I told Arthur I couldn't sign it. Arthur told Bill Fitch, said, Bill, I need to talk to Dwight. And Arthur took me out of the room, and he was trying to tell me what a good deal this was, that the team didn't have any money. Don't worry about it. I'm going to make you twice this amount of money in stocks and so forth. They're giving you, on top of the $500,000, a $75,000 loan. So why don't we go with this? And I went with it. I went with it, signed it, left there with no money in my pocket, and went back to Houston. And so it was not my happiest day.
So it was no signing bonus or anything?
I got no signing bonus.
No signing bonus. So did the ABA draft you?
The ABA drafted me. I was drafted by Miami.
Okay.
That same year, they had the second draft. Bob McAdoo was taken I'm not sure who drafted first, but Bob was first. I'm not sure the team. I was second with Miami. But Miami folded weeks later.
Right.
And my rights went to Indiana.
Okay.
And at that time, Arthur Morris had a problem in negotiating with ABA teams. Or maybe ABA teams had a problem negotiating with him. I don't know what that was. But I was not proactive in my own signing. Right. And that's something as a mature man today I would never do.
Right.
again.
You know, I was on that 1972 Miami team that folded.
Okay.
and I went to New York. My contract was sold to New York. But let me just tell you who was on that draft the year you came out. Julius Erving was drafted number 12 in the NBA that year. And you said Paul Westphal was number 10. Bud Stallworth was number 7. Corky Calhoun was right behind you.
Number four went to what, Philly?
Yeah, he went to yes, Philly. Went to Philly. Yes. And Travis Grant, the machine gun.
The machine gun?
Stayed, yes, he was drafted by LA that year. So quite a few great names that came out during that time. Yeah. Didn't have the ABA stats as to who came out, who went to the ABA, but certainly Julius went to Virginia, signed with Virginia. So ABA, during those days, ABA was offering money up front and signing bonuses because the NBA wanted you to come and go through at least 2 or 3 camps before, unless you were number one. Number one was different. So that's very, very interesting. So, okay, you go out to Cleveland and you make Rookie of the Year that year.
Oh, I mean, all rookie team.
All rookie team. So, which your initial contract you signed, was it for 1 year, for 3 years, or
5 years? $100,000 a year, 5 years.
Okay. All right.
5 years. It was a no-cut contract, so I feel good about that. But having said that, a year into my contract, my agent Arthur Morris told me that, well, Dwight, you got this no-cut contract. If you die, why are we doing this no-cut contract? If you die or something, this money will go to your family. I said, yes. He said, well, maybe that's not fair to the Cavaliers. This is my attorney.
Yeah.
I thought, and I can't say on this broadcast what I told him, but I knew then that I had signed with the devil when I signed with him. And actually, I signed with him. There's a football player, you may or may not know his name. He was an outstanding football player named Warren McVay. He was a running back.
Yes.
And he was a University of Houston grad. Mm-hmm. And Warren was kind of running around. I run around with Warren a little bit. When you get to be a certain age, I'm sure you ran around with some older guys to try to get tough. And, you played off-season basketball with David Lattin.
Yep.
Was in that little group. And so, Warren sold me on the fact that Arthur Morris is the guy you should go with. And I found out later, Arthur had paid my friend to recruit me.
Okay. Now let's go in the back room. Yeah. So let's walk through the pro career. Tell us about that, and we want to get into the business a little bit later. But
okay, the pro career, being with an expansion team in Georgia, I'm assuming that because the ABA was an expansion league,
right?
It's pretty cutthroat.
Yep.
With many of the players on your team, they're cast-offs from other teams. The front office doesn't know what the heck it's doing. And I tell people all the time, I can judge, in many cases, the product on the court if I know what the product in the back office is like.
Makes sense.
If the product on the court is bad, the product in the back office is going to be bad.
Right. Yes.
And that's true in our businesses today, George. And that's why we run our businesses the way we run them. We make sure that we got our stuff right so the people that work for us can do their job right.
Right.
So
who was on that team, that first team?
Austin Carr.
Okay.
Okay, John Johnson, who I mentioned to you, who's the father of Mitch Johnson. He was a top draft choice out of Iowa. He was one of the first point forwards.
Okay.
Outstanding player. A guy by the name of Bobby Bingo Smith.
Remember?
Bob Rule.
Okay.
You might know that. Left-handed center.
Know the name.
Walt Wesley.
Florida.
Yep.
Yeah.
Johnny Warren came out of New York. Jim Clemens.
Jim Clemens, left hand
Jim
guard.
Clemens, yeah. And Lenny came and played with us 1 year too. One of his last years. Lenny Wilkins, one of his last years, he played with us. Players who came up behind me, I played with. Years later, it was Campy Russell and Jim. But Bill Fitch was a master manipulator. You know, one of those guys. I guess he felt he had to be that way. I don't know, but he ended up getting a gold jacket. I'm not sure why, but he ended up getting a gold jacket.
Yeah, which means he was in the Hall of Fame, just for our audience.
Hall of Fame jacket. Not sure, not really sure why, but did 3 years there. And I was excited when I found out I was traded to the Golden State Warriors. You know, it was also that at first trade is always painful. Your audience may not know that. You know,
you got to be there right away, go off and leave everything.
Yep, and you're checking yourself, because one part of a trade is somebody wants me, but the other part of the trade is somebody doesn't want me.
Yeah.
But it was good for me because Al Adams was the coach. They had just won a championship with Rick Barry and Jamal Wilkes.
Butch Beard.
Beard. But Butch was in the trade for me. Yeah. He went the other way.
Okay.
And it was, and I'm in sunny California and not in at that time rundown Cleveland. So it was exciting. And we had the best record in the league that next year.
Wow.
However, we lost in the conference finals to Pat Riley, Phoenix Suns.
Okay. Pat was with Phoenix then, huh? Okay.
Yeah, he was at the end of his career in Phoenix.
Okay.
Had the Van Arsdale twins, Alvin Adams, Ricky Sobers.
Yeah. Okay. So your career comes to an end. Tell us what happened. And
on February 20th, 1977, fifth year in my league. I'm in the fifth year of my last year of my contract. We're playing the Boston Celtics in Oakland. I go up for a rebound, and I tear my quadriceps tendon, which is then and pretty much now, that's the tendon above your knee, the big muscle. That ended my career. And over since my first year in Cleveland, I've been taking a drug called butazolidine. Your listeners may not know that term, but butazolidine is a horse tranquilizer, which they readily gave to players to reduce swelling and pain for injuries. And so I've been taking butazolidine for a long time. And butazolidine, another thing that it does, it deteriorates muscle tissue and connective tissue. And so I've been taking those drugs to manage my pain. Had the injury. I was lost, George, for the first time that I remember feeling not knowing what I was going to do. The thing about my basketball career, when I was drafted, I felt so blessed and I was so excited because it was something as a teenager I didn't expect to have happen for me being a basketball player. I really wanted to be a pharmacist and I really wanted to be a professional person. But when basketball happened, with each year I was in the NBA, I got more excited about it because of the kind of money I was earning, because of the kind of connections it was affording me, and also because I knew that I'm getting this great start to my life that most college kids, young people, don't get. So when it happened so suddenly, I was hurt and disappointed. But what I did realize, though, I had become dependent upon those pain relievers, the painkillers. And I found my way to street drugs. I found myself in divorce, and that situation persisted for quite a while. And it took all that I could do. It took the friendship of and support of some really good friends and family for me to right the ship and get my head right and my feet under me.
So Dwight, when you were going through that, were you back in Houston?
No, it started in the Bay Area because I stayed in California, and that's where it started. And I just, out of everything I created, I systematically dismantled it a piece at a time, until I found myself homeless. And my parents were asking me to just come home. But when you leave your hometown as a night, it's hard to come back as something else.
Yeah.
But that's what addiction will do for you. It will have you thinking thoughts that are not true. And I found myself there. And also there is the physical addiction to the drug. Your body tells you, I can't be without it. And going to Houston, well, I don't have any contacts in Houston. I don't have, but I have them here.
Right.
And you'll walk right up to the gates of hell and through them in addiction. That's what addiction will do.
So Dwight, how did you come out of that?
With George, with the help of, as I said, my family never left me. They loved me and they told me just come home. They made a couple of trips up there to see me, to let me know they love me. But it was my basketball family, my family, and people who knew me, who just told me that, hey, when you get ready, we're here for you. When you get ready. And I had that moment of clarity, George. I had an experience. I had an experience that let me know that before I died doing drugs, it was a possibility I might kill someone else inadvertently.
Oh,
like in a car, just falling asleep at the wheel.
Right.
That kind of thing. I had a couple of experiences, and I never ever wanted to kill anybody. And I had people in the program reach out to me to say, hey, I'll work with you if you'll work with me. And after one of those incidences, I went to a guy and said, hey, I'm ready to try, to really try.
Right.
Because over those 20 years, and it was almost 20 years, George, I fought that battle. There were moments of a couple of months sober, clean and sober, 5 or 6 months clean and sober. Then I go back out, because it's so easy for so many people, once you've become addicted, when you meet the first little bit of some adversity, to say, well, to crawl back in that bottle,
Yeah.
So,
did the league help in any way, or
the league at that time was not doing a whole lot to help people? If you were a certain guy and you had a certain connection, but again, I want to put the responsibility on me. I didn't really reach out. I'm trying to think of this guy's name. It just came to me, Johnny Egan.
Johnny Egan.
I had moved back to Houston, and Johnny Egan was in Houston, also Purvis Short. And they had become aware of my situation. I talked to Mel Davis about my situation, came clean where I was. I just wanted them to know. And when I talked to Johnny Egan invited me to come to an NBRPA event in Las Vegas.
Just for clarity, Johnny Mel Davis was NBA Retired Players Association. Johnny Egan belonged to what chapter was it? Was the chapter?
Houston chapter.
Yes.
Houston chapter, right. But he invited me to come. But even prior to that, I have to give credit to Bill Walton, Rick Barry, Jim Clemens, a number of guys that reached out to me. I mean, they'd hit me up every other few months or whatever. Come on, guy. You're a champion. You can do better than this. Just let us know. But when John got me to come to a meeting, matter of fact, that's the meeting where I first met you, George. John got me to come there, and we were in this big hall. We had one of our little meetings, and I didn't know what John was going to do. I'm sitting in the back, and John stood up, and so it was. We got Dwight Davis here, and Dwight's been through some hard times.
I remember that. Yeah.
I wanted to crawl into a hole because but the way you, Bob Elliott, and some other guys came up and gave me a brother hug, and it lifted me to a point where I said, I can do this. I belong here. This is my brotherhood. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I remember that like yesterday. And Johnny was a good friend of mine, and he really looked out for the guys in the Houston chapter. and so forth, trying to do the best he could to help everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was insurance salesman. Johnny
Okay,
Wilson.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, another person, Otis Birdsong,
Yes.
who was in Houston at that time. Otis came by, said, "Hey, come on, Dwight, let's go get a haircut." But it was that kind of thing. You know, we do have a brotherhood.
Right.
We really, really do.
Right.
And I hope the younger players understand that and continue it.
Yeah.
Because we really do have a brotherhood.
Well, I'm sure they'll hear this show, and that will sort of get them, connected to what the opportunities are within the legends of basketball today. That our new name. But okay, so tell us how you came around to getting into business. How that all came about.
Well, after I got clean and so forth, I met this wonderful woman named Gail, who is my wife today. That's been 22 years now.
Yeah.
And we moved to New Hampshire, and I was in real estate for a while. Then I started working for the state of New Hampshire in advanced manufacturing. I was a facilitator. My job was to go around to the different high schools to talk to kids about getting into manufacturing programs, as opposed to going to college and running up a big bill and not, having the money to repay that. You go to manufacturing, you get a skill, you can get a 6-figure job working, building airplanes or different types of machinery and come out virtually debt free. That was my job for 2.5 years in New Hampshire. Well, my wife was in technology, and we really enjoyed being together. And we worked well together. So we thought about, would it be nice, since we married later in life, if we worked together, that way we could double our time together. So that's, lovers think funny, right? Lovers, yeah. And so we started looking for opportunities that we felt that were sustainable, that would contribute to the community, and that would give us a lifestyle that we would want. And we came across healthcare basically because as our parents aged, and we looked for healthcare for them, in-home healthcare, we couldn't find it. There were few and far in between. And so the decision then was, are we going to do this, a startup on our own, or are we going to get a franchise? So we debated that, and we decided we would look at all the franchises. And we looked at the top 3 franchises: Home Instead, Right at Home, and Senior Helpers. And Senior Helpers, for me as an athlete, they had the team aspect in that company. I call them the McDonald's of in-home care, Senior Helpers. It's chop, 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 and they give you a plan, and then they work with you with that plan to be successful. And so we chose Senior Helpers, and the rest is history. It's been a really good ride.
Right.
A good ride for us.
So, Dwight, would you say that some of those skills, some of the things that you learned or experienced in growing up and playing professional basketball and being involved with team sports and so forth, have been transferable into what you're doing today?
100%. Absolutely, George. Absolutely. Starting a business, it's not easy. It's hard work. It's heavy lifting. No matter how good a business person you are, there are going to be losses, just like in sports.
Yep.
Some days, some months, some quarters, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And it's how you respond to those. It teaches you, basketball teaches you about preparation. The same in business. The most successful people in business are generally the most prepared business. In basketball, it's the same. The most successful basketball players are the ones who are most prepared.
Right.
The best basketball players are the ones who diversify their game. In business, the best businesses are the businesses that diversify. Even if they stay within one main core business, they diversify so that it can run, it can continue to operate even when the market changes.
Yep.
A few degrees here, a few degrees there.
Yeah.
So it's been immensely helpful for me.
Yeah. And you're in the networking within your group, and like groups within the healthcare industry, you have an opportunity to share experiences, and you're not afraid to admit areas that you need help and within those groups. Would you say that also?
You're 100% correct. And again, that's why we went with senior helpers, because like I said, they're chop. They encourage that communication among its owners.
Great.
You know, and the franchisor is continually on the vanguard looking for opportunities, how they can make us more successful. And he's continually getting feedback from us to find out what's in the field, what's changing in the field. Help me to help you. To help.
Well, so let's look at some of your website, social media, if we can throw that up on the screen, of how people can reach out to you. There we go. Tell us a little bit about your social media, what we're looking at here.
Well,
can you see it?
Our social media campaign, a lot of it is run through our franchisor in Maryland, but they adapted to us because each region of the country can be a little different.
Right.
But the core needs of seniors are the same throughout the country. And we want people to know that we specialize in care for dementia and Parkinson's, and we partner with those organizations to have the best outcomes when we're working with people of a certain age. We care for people not 12 hours a week if they need it, as little as 9 to 12 hours a week if they need it. We take care of people 24/7. Right now, we have 3 24/7 people that we're with every day, every hour of the day, and we take care of them. And what we do, we improve the quality of their lives. Oftentimes, seniors, they'll lose a partner or they'll lose neighbors, and they tend to isolate. And when they isolate, that's the beginning of a downward trend for most seniors. We have to stay, George, just like you, I know you work out several times a week. We have to stay active, physically and emotionally and mentally, to have a good life. Right. And that's what Senior Helpers provides.
So, healthcare, especially senior healthcare, has such a bad name in some areas where the healthcare workers just don't do the quality of work that the company is built up to be. What do you all do specifically on your end that differentiates you from some of those negative stories out there?
Yep. Well, we provide tremendous oversight. My wife and I and our inside office team, we provide oversight. A lot of the stories, one reason companies like Senior Helpers have become prominent and doing so well, because for a long time, a lot of the healthcare workers out there, they were independent. They were uninsured. They were not professional. They were not LNAs. They had not gotten any licensing from any state or organization. And so companies like Senior Helpers, we make it professional. Those folks who come out to our client's house, they're our employees. They're not contractors. So they're subject to meeting our standards and maintaining those standards.
So how often do you and your wife go out and check on the different cases and retraining? How often do you do that?
We're in the field every day.
Okay.
We're in the field every day. We want our clients to know us. And really, for me, George, and for my wife, as I told you, was in technology here with a big technology firm. And so many people know her. You talk about things that transfer from basketball, being an NBA player, it transfers really well. Yeah. So upon my arrival to New Hampshire, there have been numerous articles that have been written about me. We funded a golf tournament, Swing by the Sea, with Dwight Davis and friends to support an after-school program. I do mentoring with a number of young men here. I'm on a number of boards. So we stay active in the community. So we're easy to reach, but we also go out and we maintain relationships with all of our clients.
Well, Dwight, I tell you, It's a great story, man, and proud to know you, proud to know where you come from and how your parents instilled that work ethic and, that how you move through all of those obstacles and turn them into opportunities and going through some rough times, my friend. So I want to thank you for being on our program, and hopefully some of our listeners will learn from the stories that you just told us, related some of the ups and some of the downs, and how professional basketball, with all of the glitz and everything, it has a dark side also, because you weren't the only one that has gone through some of these trials and tribulations. And that's why, our organization, the Legends of Basketball, that you belong to, and you have committed and been in a leadership capacity over the years to reach back and help some of the guys that are going through some of the same things. So tremendous story, my friend. I got to tell you, I really, really appreciate hearing it. Love you, man. And, wish you the best, you and your wife.
George, love you. Thank you. And you're one of our real leaders, and you've helped so many people, and you've brought so many people from one place to a higher rung on the ladder, and you continue to do that. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. We've enjoyed it. That's a wrap.
This has been Catch as Catch Can. The game isn't over. Your success story is just getting started. Head to TinsleySpeaks.com for exclusive content, resources, and opportunities. Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., a production of Live Stream Editors.